Hey everyone, this is Pierre Goldie with Gwendolyn from Dairy Vegan Cheese and another episode of Fiscal Client Talks. Gwendolyn, thanks so much for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So let's get it started off. Tell me just about your business. When was it founded? What made you start a vegan cheese company?
Yeah, so my favorite joke is to say I was destined to this from birth, since my middle name is Dare, and the company is built from that. So I wanted my life's work to be a pun, and the company is Dare Vegan Cheese, but it's pronounced dairy with the umlauts over the e. So that's where it originated. And then I started the company in 2019 after working in the Asheville, North Carolina restaurant industry for a while. I got a degree in biology, and then, just worked in restaurants, kind of growing as a young adult. And I heard over and over, I can't be vegan. I can't give up cheese. Do you have any dairy-free options? My sister was vegan at the time, and she would always want to cook for me, and I would have to feign excitement about the cheeses that she would be so excited about. So it was, a passion of love for wanting to create a product that I knew that I could do better with the experience that I had from restaurant and science and fermentation. And yeah, just wanting to feed people better and provide them an option that didn't feel like a sacrifice.
Nice, very cool. And tell me, do you still love cheese as much as you did when you started it, or have you been dabbling too much in the cheese, tasting so much that it fades, or does that love persist?
I know. So, yeah, I think I actually, when I started my company, didn't realize that I have a sensitivity to dairy. And
So,
now I do, like once I got rid of it in my diet, I was able to notice the changes in my body and, how autoimmune flares up happens when there's certain foods that I consume. And so I don't eat dairy. I did when I started the company. I wasn't vegan, I wasn't dairy free, but my company literally changed how I eat. So yeah.
good, good. And speaking about the company, speak to me about some of the challenges that you faced since finding it in 2019. I'm sure there's been a few rough years. Do you care to elaborate?
Yeah, I mean, my first year of business being COVID was a challenge in itself. And um, I also, I hadn't fully invested into the company. I was working two jobs when I started in 2019. And then I, gave up one of those at the end of the year, and I was still kind of dabbling in. I was serving tables upstairs, and I actually started the business in the commissary kitchen downstairs. So when I wasn't working upstairs, I was downstairs making cheese. And when COVID hit, restaurants closed, so I lost that job, and that was the first challenge. That was a blessing, was, fully investing into this company and giving it my all, and seeing what we could accomplish in that first year of business, which was still, all me, that first year in
Yeah.
2020. And
Quick question
um,
on that. How
yeah,
long did it take for you to fully commit 100% of your time to the business and starting it?
it was 6 months.
Okay.
I started, I was juggling the other jobs, and then, 6 months in, I was forced to take it as my full job. But like I said, it was a blessing.
Yeah.
Um,
What do you
and
mean with
yeah,
forced?
like I said, I lost that job. I
Oh,
lost
right. Okay. Okay.
I call it now my backup job. I
Right.
never wanted to be a server. I was just using that as a way to make money to start my
Mm,
business. But I think a lot of founders, if it, that fear of
mm,
making a business your own, it's terrifying to
right.
to to invest all of your energy into something that you're not sure if it's going to work out. So yeah, kind of having that, fire lit for me that, I don't have another job to fall back on. Um, so yeah, I was forced.
Got you.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, first challenge there, I think scaling a business in itself is a challenge. Learning about, I joke pretty often that my job is different, maybe even week to week, but definitely
Mm,
every year my job is entirely different. And I love that challenge. It's my favorite part of being an entrepreneur. But it is definitely a challenge to shift as your business grows. And then just the regular challenges of, increase in prices and freight and when things happen in the environment and
EVs.
it affects my community. There's just like there's always something, right? It's
Yes,
just resiliency is a word that I hear often.
correct. Yeah, the ever-changing landscape of challenges. And when you started off, you were obviously wearing multiple hats, doing a little bit of everything. How has your time commitment to specific tasks changed since the start? Like, what are you spending your different weeks on that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah. So I'm at the point now where, operations and day-to-day tasks are not my job. I
Mhm.
have some really great managers and really great staff that make cheese. I, of course, started the company by making the cheese, packaging the cheese, selling the cheese, all of the things, which is great because I think as a founder, if your staff knows that you've done all of those things, they have like a little bit more trust in you to lead them well because I know what I'm asking you to do. But yeah, today, it looks like most of my job is mostly sales and marketing, business development, financials, and kind of just making sure I lead my staff well so that they can do their job well.
Cool. And I mean, if you touch all of those departments, you actually do understand your business inside out, right? So you can actually then lead by example and know all the tricks. Um, anyway, speak to me
Mhm.
about challenges. So obviously, there was unique challenges at the start and specific external events. But today, what is some of the most difficult things for you about running a CPG business at your current stage? Like, what do you find tough?
Yeah, so I would say, I mean, everybody says they have a sales problem. Everybody wants more sales. That would make business easier. But kind of balancing the landscape as it consistently changes. The the overhead to our sales at the scale that we are now doesn't match the way that it did previously. So that's a challenge that I'm dealing with this year is seeing which percentages of our financials that we can look more into, set KPIs for, ensure that we're tracking the success of things that I have insights to, and no, trying to keep our COGS in check too, because like I said, there's raising cost in almost every aspect of business. So if I can keep my food cost well, um, that's what I can do. That's the
Right,
best I could do.
right. Tell me about sales channels if you don't mind sharing. How do you sell currently?
Yeah, so we have a few. Our direct to consumer, we sell through Shopify. We work with distribution to sell into larger retailers like Whole Foods. And then we do we call it wholesale, but either we ship to them directly or we drive our little dairy van around and drop off product to our customers that way.
Cool. Is there anything that you have learned from, I guess, cross selling? So, is there any strategy that you have that you use specifically via D2C or wholesale, and how you basically make it work in the Omni approach?
Yeah, I would say. I would say doing in-person events is really great for both. Right. So like
Mhm.
when we're growing in a new region with Whole Foods or a larger customer we're trying to support, I do try to do events specifically in that region to drive traffic to my partners in that way. Um, and whenever we do that, it's this awareness building. I did it a lot when I started my company, and I think that's how we were able to build so quickly was that immediate interaction with the brand, tasting the product, getting to know us. It's a huge it's important. Um, and then of course direct to consumer, we've started playing with the ads kind of aspect of driving awareness that way. But the following that we have through social media, I think the way that social media has changed since I started my company, it's a big deal whether you're running ads or not is to build that relationship with customers through your presence online. So it's it's different, right? It's like it's
Mm,
still very much that connection. How am I connecting directly with either channel, but in a way that feels very humanistic and that they get to connect with a brand, whether it's tasting it or understanding who we are, what our values are, our mission. Different but same.
right. How big of a difference do you think does it make if you have the clients taste the cheese? So that in person.
Hugely, such a
So,
big difference. I had a tasting last week with a new distributor, and of course, there's this like bad connotation with vegan cheese. People don't, there's a lot of people have made my job harder by making bad products. And so, the one for specific example, I was tasting with some people, another guy walked up and they were like, "Do you want to try some vegan cheese?" And he made that face, right? And so I said, "Do you want to try some good vegan cheese?" And then he did, and he was, blown away. So it is so important to, let my product speak for itself because it's truly good.
right. Yeah. Very interesting. And I just want to go back to my question about the sales channel. Is there anything with working with all these sales channels, because you've covered quite a few, is there any advice that you have to founders exploring with different sales channels? Is there any takeaway?
Yeah, I would pay attention to your margin in each. It's not the same, and there's little things that add up that you maybe not are considering when you first say yes to something. One of our largest retailers, we were so excited to grow with them, and as we did, we really realized how little money we were making to do that. And unfortunately, that's why, we have to make money to be in business. So making those decisions through numbers versus through clout or excitement or whatever it
Mm,
is, it's got to be a financial decision, not an emotional one.
good. Right. And speaking about numbers, what is the metrics that you basically look at every day?
I have a running document that I create that's kind of outside of my financials that I created many years ago, and it's just a way that I keep my brain sane. It makes sense to my brain. It does not help me with forward planning, but it helps me with my cash flow, which is really important as a bootstrap brand. Um, and that I do reference that, if I get a new distributor order, it goes onto that spreadsheet. It's a living document for me to feel comfortable as we grow. It's really kind of other people would look at it and be like, that's kind of antiquated, but it works for my
It works
brain.
for you and you
Yeah,
trust it.
yeah.
Good. So essentially cash flow, would you say that's the key one for you to understand?
For me, it's been cash flow because yeah, if there's not enough money in the bank to cover the things that are coming in, and that is the security that I feel that I need. I can be
Mm,
making product and selling products, but if there's some gap, I've experienced that as a founder of having something to pay and not having the money to pay it, and I never wanted to feel that again. So yeah,
mm.
having that sense of security is important to me.
That time that you experienced not having being able to pay for something, when was that? And can you take me through what you basically gave up on?
Yeah, so it was very much in the same time that we were building out our facilities. So that was 2022. It was pretty early on. Um, and I had an angel friend that helped me. I had to buy a pallet of cashews, but I needed to pay staff. And so I was able to, make it all work through my community. But you can only lean on others so long. You should definitely have that plan in place. But I was an early business owner, I was trying to build out a facility for the first time and still do all the other stuff that was required, and um, I needed some systems.
Yeah, friends, family, and fools, and then when
Yeah.
when the friend shifts to fools, then you know they're not in a good spot, and then you're
Mm.
potentially not a friend to them anymore. But speaking about, not speaking about, but I need to bring it up. AI, right? I know it's a topic that I think we all are overstimulated on,
Mm.
but speak to me. How are you using it currently in your business? What has changed since you've adopted AI? Is there anything that you can share?
Yeah, I don't use it a lot right now for strategy or planning. I use it a lot more in marketing. And um, I, of course, would never want my brand voice to sound like AI, but sometimes it is helpful to get an idea and then humanize it from an idea that, like, what do I call it? There's just like fatigue as a business owner
Mm,
having to think all the time. So for me, I use it as like an idea starter, and then, humanize it, like I said. And then
yeah,
I know that there's so much more. I'm starting to play with some other stuff, but it is very much around, marketing and sales and ads and leaning into it that way.
creating
I've just
efficiencies.
I've just kind of scratched the surface. I know that.
Good. Okay. Yeah, thanks for sharing. I want to pivot now to our relationship just really quickly. Where did we meet, Gwendolyn? Or how did we
Yeah,
meet?
it's
Where did you
it's
find
been
us?
almost a year, I think, I'm pretty sure.
Hmm.
I had gone through, I had a really great bookkeeper when I started. She wasn't, a strategic partner. She was just very good at organizing my books and kind of thankfully teaching me how to look at how the back end of QuickBooks works, which I have found that not a lot of founders get that kind of hands-on experience. So I'm grateful for that relationship with her. Um, and she was kind of part-time and went off to other adventures. And I had a go of it trying to find someone after that relationship, just because of um, I think it's accountability is really the best way to put it. Our business is complicated. We do manufacturing, and I can honestly say that I didn't really understand the back end that's required for per effectively tracking COGS and booking those to the right things, and it not just being like, and it comes in and it goes on to the P&L. That's not how that should work. It should be how it is made and then sold. Anywho, that was a really difficult concept for a lot of people that I had worked with, and because of that, our books were like a little messy. They were a little messy when we met you guys, and um, it was trust building at the beginning because I had gotten burned a couple of times, and I'm like, I don't know, can somebody actually do this? Somebody has to be able to know how to do this. And thankfully, when we met you, you can, you were able to figure out at least the mess that had been created, and then where do we go from here? Which absolutely built the trust that I needed.
Yes, I remember our first interaction was we were actually referring to or speaking about just passing journals, and I think you went as far as actually calculating it and then sharing it with the bookkeeper and saying like all you need to do is get that into the system so that it accurately reflects, and how simple that is. But that was the thing that I recall was the pain point back then. So would you say today you trust your numbers?
I do, yeah, yeah. And I think I mentioned a little bit ago is that I'm able to kind of look at them and make decisions with them now, right? Like this, understanding that this is a percentage of our spend, our profit, and I can put that into a relation of, my manager needs to stay on top of this. It doesn't need to go over this percent. We could actually get it down, and that both trust and then the implementation of the trust is so important. It's crucial.
Yeah. I mean, I think you also said earlier in this conversation, you spoke about how you analyze the sales channels, I think specifically wholesale, and by having your numbers, you then decided not to pursue it because it just didn't make sense, right?
hmm Yeah, I can have my food cost all day, but if where I was struggling was that, like I said, the overhead. And now that I see it after we've been working for, a year to get the books right, I'm like, oh, this is where I need to be focusing energy. Um, or of course, getting more sales to justify where we're at. But um, yeah, uh, it's very obvious when you have numbers that make sense that where you should be putting energy and what you can be changing and all of those things.
Yeah. I want to then finally, we're nearing the end here. What is next for dairy vegan cheese? Where to from here?
Yeah, I think I've kind of shifted our business model. Being that omni-channel approach, I did put a lot of energy into our retail growth, our growth in grocery, and that's certainly not, I'm not interested in continuing to do that, but I do feel like ensuring that our percentages across the margins are, or across the channels are more even. And
Mm,
so there is not like, it's not like I'm planning for the worst, but like it should be more even if you're in an
mhm,
omni-channel. And then if for us this year we are focusing a bit more on direct to consumer. We've thankfully already seen a 40% growth in the first quarter, so it's looking promising for the year. And if we grow one channel really well, maybe we'll kind of shift again the next year. But direct to consumer and food service is where I have a lot of my energy and
interesting.
desire for growth this year.
Exciting, really exciting. And I just want to again speak about the previous comment you made about your business model. I think it's so important. The takeaway that I have is that every business has a specific business model, and what I mean with that is has a specific unit economics, right? So if you're selling D2C, that has a specific P&L unit economics that you need to follow. You understand what to invest. You understand what GP you need to hit, right? What gross profit margin, what contribution margin, and for me, it's really interesting seeing how you are maturing and understanding that for the different channels, and then essentially how to allocate capital and strategize like what's working out for you. So that's really cool to see. Um, what would your piece of advice be for startup CPG kind of businesses that is in chaos, specifically probably with their finances?
Yeah, well, finding the right partner is really helpful. Just a little plug for you guys. It was like spinning my wheels. And so that first thing is like not don't give up. There's someone out there that actually understands this. But I would say starting with someone that understands
Mm,
manufacturing. As our systems have changed and the way that we track things, it's possible to get things better. It's possible to make things better, but if you can start really well, then it's going to be so much easier to make business decisions and create a good business from the start.
correct, very accurate. And then final question. This is my favorite question. It's a bit cliche, but I always want to understand from business founders, if you have to give one piece of advice that you've learned since 2019 of being in business, what is that in general? What's your one takeaway that you've learned?
Oh, I would say community. My favorite joke, because I love puns, is I'm not trying to recreate the wheel. I'm just trying to recreate the cheese wheel. And I'm not the best person that's ever done business. There are so many people out there that have experience, and putting yourself in community and asking questions and realizing that you're probably not right sometimes, and it's the most important thing. The business community that you support yourself, surround yourself around is your support system, and hugely important.
Very cool. Love that. Gwendolyn, thanks so much for entertaining me for a couple of minutes. Really appreciate your inputs and all the best with 2026 and the future. We're rooting for you and thank you for your partnership.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.